welcome to all our CMs. We are delighted to be hosting yet another My Story session. And just to give, for those of you who are new to this CM session, please just bear with us for a little overview of TIE. As you know, TIE is now grown for the last 29 years. We are the founding chapter of TIE, and I'm the president-elect. And so I'm delighted to be here with all of you. We now are present in 14 countries across 60 chapters. And during the pandemic, we have continued all of our programs very, very successfully. And in fact, had a really great TIECon 21, TIECon 20, which was our first virtual event, thanks to Kumar and to Radhika, and then continued on with TIECon 21. And we are planning on a very, very exciting TIECon 22 coming up in May. We've had our first two physical events. We had a very successful holiday party a few weeks ago, and many of you attended that. And we also recently last week had hosted the Vibrant Gujarat delegation from Gujarat in person, and that was a very successful event as well. This session for My Story is the last of the year, and it is my pleasure to introduce Naveen. Naveen Bisht has been a die-hard volunteer of TIE. He has been a board member. He's a committed leader, and he has in fact been the one who has shaped and initiated this My Story program. He's been a serial successful entrepreneur himself, and I hope I can do justice to the number of companies that he has founded. He's currently the CEO of Akitra, and that's in the cybersecurity space. He has also been the founder and CEO of Strax, Secure Act, Nena Networks, and Ukiah Software that actually got bought out by Novell. So Naveen is from Gaucho country, from UCSB, and is an innovator in his right. He's holds several patents in AI and in security. And we are delighted that he continues to host this program. So over to you, Naveen, to introduce our phenomenal speaker today. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita, for kind words. Thank you again. Good evening, folks over here in the West Coast, and morning to folks if you're joining from India and other parts of the world. And we're really excited to have you over here for an amazing entrepreneur and speaker who's going to share his entrepreneurial journey with us. So before we get started, just please make a note of writing down your Q&A questions in the Q&A portion of the screen. You would see there, so we can address all your questions from our speaker today. So as you all know, there is a huge momentum towards cloud native technologies, and while the rapid adoption of cloud native technologies is fueling lots of innovation, organizations are grappling with the challenges of securing more complex cloud stacks. So seeing an emerging opportunity to protect the full cloud native stack throughout the DevOps lifecycle, from the moment it's defined in code and throughout the lifecycle of infrastructure being employed in the production, is what Piyush Sharrma, who is our amazing entrepreneur and speaker today, excited in co-founding Accurics in 2019. The company was recently acquired by Tenable Holdings, which is a leading vendor in the cyber exposure space, within less than 2 years of founding for 160 million in cash. And so Accurics enables organizations to innovate with confidence, as they call it, by protecting the full cloud native stack, from code to production in hybrid and multi-cloud environments. Prior to this, Piyush led global teams across engineering, product, and research at Symantec Corporation, a leading security vendor, to bring numerous enterprise security innovations to the market. He's filed multiple patents, contributed to other patents and invention committees. He also serves on the technical oversight committee of the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, CNCF, including the Special Security Special Interest Group. And Piyush holds an MBA from Pune University, Master's in Computer Applications from Delhi University, and Bachelor of Science in Physics from Kumaon University, Nainital, the most magical place. And I'm excited to have him here because I also come from that place. So with that, I would like to hand it over to Piyush to share his exciting, colorful, and amazing entrepreneurial and professional journey with us this evening. So let's give him a virtual round of applause. So Piyush, to you.
Hi, Naveen, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Thank you so much for such amazing introduction. I'll probably should have recorded, and I'm sure it is being recorded. I'll probably use it next time. But thank you for the kind words, Anita and Naveen. It has been a pleasure, and thank you for having me here. Uh, I am so super excited sharing, something about me, what we did, and what are the certain takeaways we had from our last venture. And it is there is no perfect world, and I'm sure our life is also not perfect, and there are a lot of entrepreneurs that who goes through this rigor of building a company ground up, taking it to the world stage, and then making it bigger and better in the market. So having said that, let me switch a little bit on the few slides. I'm just keeping this few very few slides. I would love to talk about personal stuff. Love to talk about what I think, what matters to me, and what are the top few lessons that I've learned and I'd like to share with everybody. So having said that, let me just share my screen and all right. So life is like a clean slate. It is gray. It's up to us what kind of colors we like to fill in. I am just making it up. It was not intended to be like that. Uh, Thank you again for having me here. My name is Piyush Sharrma, co-founder of CEO at Accurics. Um, what you see is not what you get. That's what I always believe, and do not conform. And this conformity is a is a is a disease for some people, and it is also a disease of not conforming. But sometimes when you don't conform, you learn from situations, you learn from circumstances and environment that you grow up in. And that's what I truly believe in. If the conformity sometimes just does not is not conducive for the growth of individual. And companies are built by people, and people are the values, and that's the basics of all of this. uh, where it all began, I grew up in a very small town in India, in UP, a place in Meerut, a place called Meerut, one of the first frontier of Indian independence movement in 1857. Uh, Grew up there a little bit, spent few years, but then I spent my early childhood in Nainital studying in a boarding school called St. Joseph's College, likely called one of the magical cities, like Naveen was saying, one of the finest and one of the most beautiful city I've seen myself. And this picture is probably is an understatement. And I remember standing on my football ground where you could see the entire town below your feet. So it's amazing. Um, it was a very small town where I grew up. My father was professor and a doctor in a medical college. Youngest of three siblings. I was youngest. Studied at Nainital, Uttarakhand. Today, I was a national player, table tennis player, trained in boxing. These are the two sports that I've done while growing up. Moved in California in 2015, very early 2015. I'm currently living in San Ramon, Danville, in the East Bay, SF Bay area. If everybody um, knows about. And this is where we were told, we were taught to taught to learn or remember that what matters to us, and what matters to me is family, friends, and values. And these are the things that does not leave you, whether you're doing a startup, whether you're building your own company, you are trying to do a NGO or anything like that. This is what keeps you awake. These are the things that makes you an individual and a human being. And family especially, because family is, they are the one who sacrifices. I'm not the one who's sacrificing. I'm working for my passion, but they're not. So it's a uh, uh, it's a huge moment for them to see we as entrepreneur being successful, or even if it fails, they're still happy. We got through. We learned something. um, my family, uh, my wife, now a homemaker. We decided that she might slow down a little bit when I was starting Accurics. It just gets so hard otherwise, managing two young growing up kids. My daughter's senior in high school, going to college, applying to college. And those were one of those psychology. We'll talk about that, why such a crucial time. And there's no perfect time, but such a crucial time. My son, middle school, struggling with some health conditions, but none of this really matters when you want to do something and you know what to do. And not that I knew it, but it is a these are the factors that are more important to you. These are the factors which drives your decision on certain circumstances. And that's why these are the things that matters to us. Friends, I know a lot of these are the friends I spent some time. Many of them continued with me in Accurics. I'm proud of having such amazing set of friends who continue to work. We've been working for 15 years, 20 years, continue to work together, even in Accurics, prior to Accurics, even after Accurics. And sometime we do not pay enough attention to our friends. We always look at material advantages, social status, social pressure. But these are the guys who have grown with you. They have seen you when you were also like them, and when you were also growing up. So never forget them. They are your strength, and they will stand behind you when nobody else will. And uh, this is a really important aspect of the life. And last piece that is I would like to insist on is my values. What is my values? I Not that I'm super clear about these values, but these are something that if I blink my eyes, these are the three things comes to my mind. First thing is giving back. Giving back is not a charity. When you're doing a social responsibility or a CSR, nobody's doing a charity. It is to return what you took from the world, from the society. And in our own capacity, you can give back the way you want. Today, I gone through a startup journey. I became an entrepreneur. I became we could get the company to conclusion. My giving back could be is to help other entrepreneurs, other founders to make them successful, to see them successful. And in our own capacity, in our own boxes, in our own rooms, we can do a lot of good that we don't think very often. Second, my value is you're not too small to be effective. You need to be the voice. You need to be the voice that people can hear. Just try to sleep in a bed with a mosquito. The small mosquito can actually give you the sense that why not being small is not easy, and you can still be effective. And last is resolve your conflicts. You do not want to go to the bed while having conflicts in your mind. It doesn't matter what conflicts are these. It doesn't matter. These are personal conflicts. These are professional conflicts. These are internal conflicts. You cannot sleep with those conflicts. You have to resolve them. And this is not to just this is to always move on. This is always to put these conflicts to bed and make sure that when you grow up, when you wake up in the next day, you are waking up in a new day and a new world. These are the few things. These are the three things that I really care about. um, I don't I may have not paid enough attention to these, but these are the things I want to live by. And I'm happy to share anything that what I have done for each values, but but to me, moving forward, moving onwards is far more important, and everything becomes, as some of the financials call, rounding errors. What influenced me, and this is a very important aspect. I did. Um, I read sometime when I get time, but when I was growing up at the age, I was in the fifth grade or sixth grade. I got hand of this book written by Stephen London, who wrote this book called Fish, and that book was magical to me. That book transpired a lot of thinking, a lot of change, in actually helped me transform. This is a book I still go back and read very often. This is a book still helps me keep keep my neck high when the times are not right. And it has proven me that, hey, this is there is a way, the way that allows you to think positively, uh, and you can still making progress even if the things are not looking good. uh, I would highly recommend, if you have not read, if you have not read it, please do read. It's a great small, very small book, very thin, not a very thick book. Second is influential. I don't have to explain Dalai Lama. I've been fascinated by his grit on Tibet, his grit on life, his viewpoint on things, on what matters to the world. So um, I happened to had a chance long time ago where I could meet him in person. It was very personified in the personality, amazing thought process. Just did not spend a lot of time, but he really that meeting actually made me think what he thinks, how he thinks, what he do or what he does in adverse situation. And last is the book that I'm sure a lot of us have read, The Gang of Four, which is Eric Gama, Richard Hem Johnson, and Will Side's book, which is for designing object-oriented programming. I've read this book ample number of times, but I still go back and tries to understand, decipher in some of the places. So this is what influenced me, and these are three pillars. These are three centers of power in me and my values, where I always tries to check on myself that if I'm doing good or not. This is my barometer of that moment. Uh, More than philosophy now, I can actually start talking a little bit more. But the reason I'm pointing these things out, that in a race of the world, we are looking at a lot of success. Everybody is trying to meet the numbers. Everybody's trying to meet the goals, but often we forget that there's a human aspect of it. That everything is driven off humans, and humans is the most important thing. Business are driven off humans. So whether it's your customers, whether it's your employees, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, it's all human. And that's the aspect that we should never forget. Go and live with them, and die for them. And that's how it should be. um, Growing up, we'll talk now a little bit more on the career and professional piece. Now things might get starting, and up until now I was a little philosophical, but it's not just being philosophical, but I'm also being emotional here. That these are the things that I always love to share, and always love to tell that, hey, this is what I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I at least have a viewpoint. I at least have an opinion. Was there a plan when I growing up? Maybe yes, maybe not. Studied biophysics for my career. I didn't realize that my subject for my career probably will not become my career. I was doing programming. Programming was a hobby. I started writing my first line of code in 5th grade back in days, very, very long time ago. I tried 2 software startups before my first paid job. Those both were very pretty brilliant. .com pulled them down. We just did not know how to execute. Honestly, we were fancy, building fancy stuff, but fancy stuff require fancy GTM and business plans, and we were just fresh out of college. Built personally did a lot of stuff. Built engine simulator for a submarine and container ship, and container has been with me for 20 years now. So cloud native may be new, but I've been working on containers for a long time. I can proudly say that. I was founding engineer for 7 cybersecurity product, part of research labs, part of multiple forensic investigations. Um, I, I when I was picking up my career at that time, I was always finding a meaning, of finding a passion, finding a connection with the domain I was working on. I started with technical domain. Then I worked on financial domain with customers and the projects. But once I started working with Symantec, I realized that maybe that's my thing and that's my passion, and that's something I grew up with, and that is only thing I know now. It's been 17, 18 years I've been working in cybersecurity. Philosophically, we understand a lot of things. The world have changed, but security is still security. A lot of there was a time I started going after inventions and taking a lot of pride in filing patents and granting them. But over a period of time, I think these becomes numbers, and your innovation is not about just filing patent. Innovation has to be improving the day-to-day life of anything to everything. So there was no plan, and my plan started with something. I reached out something, and the message I'm trying to give here is, in a larger scheme of things, 1 or 2 here and there, 1 or 2 years here and there does not matter. And this is a message I keep telling my kids, that sometime grades in one year, another year doesn't matter. Your life is so big. You have a long 70, 80, 90, 100 years old life. 1 or 2 years here and there does not matter. Sometimes you plan things, the plan does not get executed. Doesn't mean there is no end. There is always an end. There is always an outcome, no matter what happens. So I personally seen a lot of startups. I've seen myself who have gone through a very difficult phase, but as long as they continued, as long as they had a grit to make that to a logical conclusion, they always reaches. So, and this is a positive part, but sometimes you don't have to plan is already laid out to you. Accurics was a dream, built it by hand. You can see we literally tear down the entire office ourselves, 4 people in total, picked up stuff that we wanted to build, what we wanted to build, how we wanted to put together. And it was 2019. I'm talking sometime month in January. That was the time I'm talking about. And plan was simple. We thought that we will disrupt, we will simplify, and we'll be the first. So no matter what we do, and no matter what segment was. So we said that these are the goals that we made for ourselves, that, hey, we are going to disrupt the segment. We don't care what we do. We don't care what happens, but we want to come across as the thought leader who knows the subject, who can disrupt the monopoly of these large players. And when we were working on the concept, which was highly controlled and monopolized by very large players, who continues to do acquisitions and big numbers, larger expansion, and we were very, very small. And going from leaving moonlighting to leaving the job to picking the seed funding, we were always told that one thing that we always told is it's a feature, right? But the feature was disruptive. So no matter what you do, no matter how small or how big the idea is, if it does not disrupt the segment, it is not going to happen. Second is to simplify. You can solve this. There are tons of companies who are solving the same problem, but in more simplified fashion, gets more value over from customers. And that's where their adoption comes into picture. The second big goal that we had in our plan was adoption. It's a very simple goal, right? Just we will just sell it to, or we expand it to millions of users and millions of customers. Sounds easy, but it's quite complex. It's quite complex in terms of figuring out what is simple. The simple is the most complex thing to find out. And last is product innovation. You got to be first. We thought that, hey, no matter what we do, there is one piece we are gonna do that nobody else is doing, and this is where the big bets are going to be. So that was a plan. Everybody starts with this positive picture. I'm working on the biggest and the brightest segment, and so on and so forth, and blah blah blah. Then we set the goals. We said that we will be the first company in cybersecurity who will be building a developer first company. We will build some full stack security, etc., etc. We bolster our story in runtime. We will commoditize the market, and we will continue to reinforce. We will be the first company who will be building a self-healing infrastructure. How we do it, what we do it, it's a separate section, but we did set some goals, and the goals actually helps. And where I'm going is the goal starts at high level. I'm just going back a little bit. The plan was very, very simple. Three aspect of the plan. We disrupt, we simplify, and we be the first one. Then we set certain goals that you can measure, that you can execute on, and so on and so forth. We started tracking also, and we were tracking on day-to-day basis, on a quarterly to quarterly basis. What I'm showing you is something that we have been tracking on a daily basis. We have been reporting to our board. One of the things that I've really learned while working at Accurics, bless you. One of the things
Sorry, I was not on mute.
no worries. One of the things that I've learned working in Accurics is goals are very important, because those are there are no that people will not tell you the truth that the product sucks. People will not tell you the truth that, hey, you are not going to be successful, because they are your friends. Nobody wants to give you the bad news. The only friend in the cybersecurity, the only friends you have in startups are your numbers. Your numbers tells a story. Your number tells your result, and you have to believe on them. You have to stick to them, and take it to the core. And sometimes it doesn't matter how small you are, 1 employee, 2 employee, not an employee, 0 employees, whatever it is, you have to have some goals. And then you start tracking it. And you would notice over a period of time that it changes how you prioritize things, how you put money on something which is more important than anything else. And that's why these goals are going to help and build a plan that you can execute on. So no matter what you do, where you want to be are the goals that you want to set. And then COVID happened, and somebody sent me when I left my job and started working. They sent me this picture that everyone has a plan. I was showing him. I was showing off my plan, and he sent me this picture. I mean, he's a well-wisher. He said, "Hey, COVID pandemic has happened. Now what?" And I said, "Yeah, I had a plan, but not anymore. But this is the life is about, and this is what a startup is all about. When you do not have a plan, till the time you get punched in the mouth, and that plan is off the board, off the books, just throw out that window. But the basics remains the same. The basic doesn't change, and I will show you a few things that, despite all that, in hindsight, COVID actually helped the industry, helped the digitization and optimization of infrastructure. The first few months were very depressing, very, very concerning. You are not, when you're building a company, you are not just building, you're not the only one who taking the risk. The people who are believing in you, the employees, the first 10 employees or first 15 or first 20 employees who have jumped the wagon with you are also taking the equal risk. It does not matter whether you are the founder or somebody else is a founder. First 10 people are equal founders, and that's how it should be. Uh, but yeah, and no plan happened. Then as 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 you suspect, we go back to our drawing board. We came up. I remember we came up to a plan. We built a free trial version of the product. We said that, hey, we're gonna build the adoption using this. It's not gonna happen. There are not enough events happening. There's not gonna happen any interaction with customers, not gonna happen. Nobody knew what's gonna happen, and we were right in the middle. The day we were launching, that's the day that COVID happened, in the month of February or April timeframe. The Accurics journey happened then, but no regrets, no complaints. Sometime in April, we came out of stealth, April 28th of 2020. 12 employees, no ARRs, but we had a very solid list of customers. Customers have actually been very, very supportive all through, when they knew that we are trying to build something that is going to solve their problem. We may not be ready today, but there are customers who has the appetite of working with startup. There are partners who has an appetite of working with startup. If they expect you to do certain things that you cannot do in early stage of the company, they are not your partners. Journey was very interesting. Raised our Series A funding in the month of August 2020. 4 or 5 months after that, we just did not imagine that COVID would turn around the table or turn the table around. Things would be very different. Industry has started looking at cybersecurity as a mainstream business, not as a support function. It was a dream. I kept on saying, approximately got seed funding somewhere in February, unofficially seed. In February, we added some 100,000 developers. Adoption over revenue, we added almost 100,000 developers on our open source platform, approximately 3,000 stars on GitHub, almost 500,000 downloads. And that is the important trend that I'd like to mention here. This trend is not about how much revenue you generate. This trend is about how much adoption you can have. What is the appetite of the market of taking a technology like we were building? And that's the key here. The key is, how do you find that market fit? How do you find those? Finding first 20, 25 customers is easy, but taking it from 25 to 1,000 customer is the hardest part. And once you get to 1,000, you have proved the point. You have proven that your product works. You have proven that the product is required, technology works, so on and so forth. And there are multiple ways to do it. And given the COVID was there, no customer interaction happening, no conferences happening, no in-person meetings happening. This is the best we could do. And I think in hindsight, the plan has really played well. Community, if they likes you, they can make you star. And if community doesn't like it, they will not touch it. And I think that's the validation we had, that we were building something that is really big, that is something very disruptive. And that's what kept us going all this while. And despite having our own spike of happiness and challenges. Now, let me just go back to a little bit more philosophy, but I'll talk about 5 things that is very, very close to me, very close to my heart and soul. And I will there were some 2 good questions. Sorry, I got distracted. Great questions. I'm gonna touch upon those 2 questions as soon as I'm here. But it's always very fascinating. And if I look back, what are the 5 things I want to take away? And there are a lot of material that you can find. There are a lot of founders who talks about how you can be successful what are their lessons, and there's no guarantee that everybody have learned the same thing. They may have different experiences, different companies, different circumstances. In my case, the first one and most important is you have to be crazy. You have to be simply crazy. Unless you have that madness, unless you have that craziness, you're not gonna make it big. You're not gonna be successful. And whether it's a commodity market, whether it's a growth market, whether it's a upcoming segment, any segment can be disrupted. I remember taking this picture when we were very, I think the first month or second month of the company. One of our founding engineer, he had a 6-month old baby. Despite all that, he decided to take the plunge, join the company. He used to bring his wife was working, so that she could support him. He used to bring his own his 6-month old baby in office, and he used to work. And he's the guy. And all of these guys are still with us. Phenomenal craziness. Never looked at the time, but there was a madness to get something done out of the door. And sometime it is not the perfection. The it is about the communicating that what you're building is more important, and some we call it prototyping and whatever you want to call it. But you have to be crazy to do that, and craziness will bring disruption. If you are crazy, if you're passionate, if you are passionate, it again, you will be passionate when you are crazy. And that's how I usually put it. People is your product. It doesn't matter what you're building, what you're not building. If you do not have the team, if you do not have the focus on people, it's not going to happen. Have your people grow, have your team, let the smart people decide what to build and what not to build. And you would notice that you will always bias as a founder, you're always biased with your opinion. You think that you know everything, but what you do not know is the perspective that these guys brings into picture. And that is a perspective that your team will bring you in. The team is going to talk to team is your 10 mouths that you're gonna have. They're gonna talk to 10 other people. Each 10 members talking to 10 people. In total, you're talking to 100 people. And that's how you learn. That's how you get the feedback. No matter what you think as a founder would matter. At the end, let your team tell you that what you're building is really meaningful or it is not meaningful. So that is your product. If they align, if they believe in you have a product, it's just a matter of time. It's always time and capacity. There is no technology which is impossible. We are seeing interplanetary travel starting with SpaceX and Blue Origin. You just imagine, it's just a matter of putting that heart and mind and soul into that thought, and things would happen. And that's how you will disrupt again. Speed is underestimated. I am telling you, this is my personal experience. It's not a great thing to focus on speed. People will tell you that, hey, things will happen on its time. But startups lives by only two things. One, either they are faster and better in execution than any other company on the planet, or they have a technology that cannot be bad. They just monopolize the technology, and the later doesn't happen. Everything that you build today, or every technology that you build, can be copied, can be commoditized. But the gap that you build from you between you and your nearest competitor is what will make you successful. Being the first or being the second or third is equal to losing the game. You have to be the first one. That's why speed is underestimated. You have to go with the speed. And that doesn't come just by you because you want to execute on. That comes with the clarity. That comes with the team that you have. And when team believes in, it will happen. So that is my third lesson. And no, never underestimate. And not every situation would be equal. Not every situation where you will be able to execute on the velocity that you wish for, but that has to be your lesson. And then never slows down. Taking a decision is far more better than not taking a decision and taking a better decision 5 days later or 10 days later. And that is how we think that, hey, am I wasting my time? And what I'm losing if I'm not completing this, what I'm losing if I'm not making my first 10 customers successful. Last, fourth is know your goals. These are little businesses aspect of it, but I keep always start with top four things that really important. One, what is the go to market? We need to know who we are targeting. Otherwise, and it's a very complex world. It's a very complex world. I mean, today I know cybersecurity, so I'll talk about it. Today, it's very hard to distinguish that who's going to buy my product, and unless you have that focus, unless that you have that clarity, you will not be able to produce the value, because the persona defines everything. So you must know who you are targeting. And even if it is the target does not have money or does not have the business check, you would still be successful, but you need to know who you're targeting. Second, when you position, what are we going to tell them? What is our stand? That what are we building? That positioning is very, very important. So how do we differentiate? How do you uniquely solves a problem, an existing problem that others cannot solve? Third is your OKRs. Setting the goals are one thing, but executing them and uh, uh, tracking them is equally or more important. Most companies starts off really well. They brings the product well in time in the market, but at some time you would notice that there is a plateau of growth. There's a plateau of execution. Things are, you started to feel that, hey, I'm not moving, and that's the sense. Unfortunately, happens. And but this is where again goals comes into picture. Goals are your friends. Those numbers that you're looking around, uh, those numbers looking around, that you are looking around, are the numbers going to tell you the story? And last is, what do we need to execute? I think once you know your OKRs, how you're going to measure your goals, how you're going to measure your success, it's a matter of looking and thinking, how do you execute on? And these are the four layers in which most people operates, and the founders, especially the founders, needs to be able to operate in any level. And sometimes when you do the hiring, you're always looking at what layer I'm hiring. I'm hiring at the foundational level, or I'm a tactical level or strategic level. And sometimes you hire people only for one layer, but the people who are going to be successful, or the founders who are going to be successful, is who are able to do all these four. And that's the ability, that's the founder, that's the entrepreneurship is all about. That it doesn't matter what my expertise is, but let me understand the market, let me understand my persona, and let me talk about um, what I'm going to do. And the last goal, the last goal I'm going to talk about is very, very important. Every founder needs to remember, everyone needs to remember that you are not alone in this. There's a family who sits behind you. I remember my daughter going through the entire application process. She used to come whisper in the door, but they're not supposed to open the door because I'm on the calls, I'm talking to somebody. And that is the most important aspect of it. They are the ones who needs to be appreciated. They are the ones who face, or who takes the brunt of all the stress that we as a founder goes through. So never ignore your family, or never let them feel that you are still not around, or you are super busy. Nobody is busy. And this is my fifth lesson. This is probably my fifth one, because personally I missed 2.5 years of my daughter. When we started Accurics, my daughter was in ninth grade. She's turning senior now. She gone through all those tough 3 years of education. I truly miss that. And but the kids are they're always forward looking. Your family is looking at the brighter side of all this that you were doing, but they are with you. They are the ones who are dealing with your absence every day. Even if you're at home, you are still absent from most and everything that you are doing. This was my last aspect of lessons. I know it was not a conventional or a very startup learning or business educating conversation I was having, but I wanted to have a conversation which goes to the core, which goes to our values, and which goes to us, we as humans and we as individuals. So I'll stop here, and I'm open and happy to answer any questions.
So thank you, Piyush, really for an amazing story and speaking from your heart. So I don't know, do you want to stop sharing your screen if you want to, or do you want to keep
Sure.
this? Thank you. So anyway, so let me start with the first question. So basically, first of all, thank you so much. Like I said, really speaking out from your heart, as we had discussed earlier. Also, this is what the my story is about, not just the corporate, you know, kind of professional part only. So really appreciate it very much. So first question, usually, I start off, then I'll obviously have the audiences writing up questions. There are a number of them already. So when you were growing up as a child, obviously in my most beautiful place, which I love also, as you love, since both of us have homes there too. So when you were growing up, was there anything which inspired you that you wanted to become an entrepreneur? I know you did do even startups when you were in Delhi and all that, but as a child, reflect back when you were a little kid, while you're climbing up to your school, up in the hills, if you had any
Yeah,
moments of
I
like
think
that.
I no, absolutely. And there are growing up in boarding or not having parents around, that gives me a different thought process that I was putting together. I actually was very fascinated with the whole um, with the whole small medium business segment. I used to go to I used to when Nainital was a very very cold place. So sometime in the winters or the month, and sometime in December, we used to step out of our hostels and go and pick up a cup of tea and a burger and a bun burger from a small tea stall. There used to be a old person, a old man who has been there for ages and years. And what was fascinating about that is they build the economy around itself. They build their own business around who they are dealing with. And he knew that most students are available only after 6 o'clock, and that's how this his hours of operations was. A small he never kept anything that that will perish, or that you will have to sit down and eat. So this entire small business thing is always fascinating to me. I still I enjoy time with some of my friends who are trying to build restaurants and small businesses, even here in San Francisco. And that's a passion. That's amazing part, that maybe that's something I like to do, and build something no matter small. And probably I'm honestly not sure, but that's one tea stall I don't forget.
Thank you so much, Piyush. That's a great story to uh, share. First question is from one of our attendees. You also know, I also know, Abhishek, one of our good friends. How did you find your early customers?
Great question. Yeah, that was actually a question I was reading when I was sharing my presso. So my first 5-6 customer came through friends and families, people who referred us to different to friends, and that's how we started. But uh, but truly, my first paid customer happened only probably 6 months, uh, 6 months later after launching the product. I think it's very hard to it's very hard to have somebody pay for something that they have not seen, or they do not see the value. And Abhishek, since you're asking this question, you you would notice that there is no perfect recipe. The first 10, I'm very certain that all startups gets their first 5 or 10 customer through their friends. It's always the friends and families who helps you get your first 4 or 5 customers. I do not call them 4 or 5 customers or early customers. I call them design partner, because those are the customers you're going to experiment on. And if those guys approves your product, if they renews, is what the testament that you're building something that is going to be useful.
Great question. Great answer, Piyush. Thank you so much. So second question is from Brusali. Is how important is to have mentors when you are on your entrepreneurial journey? And number one, if you had any mentors, if yes, how did you reach out to them?
Well, thank you for asking this question. Yes, everybody needs mentor. Everybody. Warren Buffett has mentor. Bill Gates has Warren Buffett as mentor. There's a reason to it, because it's all about perspective. Like we were just talking, sometimes mentors are not to tell you how to do the business. Mentor help you to look at the perspective, a different perspective of what you're going through. I had my mentor too. um, I bounced off a lot of ideas from him. With him, I discussed that, hey, this is hard I'm trying to build, or this is what is happening. But sometimes you do not have to also look for the core mentor. Talk to your team, talk to them every day, talk to give them also a chance to become your mentor. And I was lucky, because I had few people I worked in the past who were my mentors. I used to go and bounce ideas, talk to them, used to fight with them that, hey, you let me start this, or you convinced me to start this. There was always times where you would go and want to blame somebody of getting you into this, but um, and there is always a goal, there is always an end.
Great answer. Next question is from Ashish Kar. What was your journey? Ashish, thank you. He's my customer also. What was your journey getting product market fit plus right persona?
Yeah. So see, we again, I'm not that super experienced that I've sold and built multiple startups, but at least in mine, starting from the beginning, we were trying to solve a problem. Okay, let me put it this way, and you would laugh at it. To me, the persona is someone who would save his job because your product produces a value. And that's the thing to me is more important, that every time you pitch a product, who is going to lose the job if your product is not there. I think that's how I always think. We debated a lot when we were working on Accurics, the bottoms up strategy of bringing developers into security, educating developers on how to secure their infrastructure, do it in the code. All that is great. Developers will remain influencers. They will never become the buyer or the persona, because a developer does not lose the job. There is a breach happens. So when the breach happens, only the CISO who lose the job. And that is why that is the persona. And if you cannot save his job, your product will not do the justice. So that's how we looked at. And we iterated, Ashish. We iterated multiple times, probably 3 or 4 version of our product that we generated. We all coming from enterprise background, right? So when we came that jump from the large enterprises to do the startup, I will change the world. I know how to. I know 100 people, 100 customer. That notion is always there. And then you start building a product that is so enterprisey. But and that's where the iterations start. So we for example, my story around that is to uh, to remember and understand that we will sell our product to security, but we will operationalize the product with DevOps. And that's where we started thinking that, hey, the way we are selling the shift left, the way we are selling infrastructure as code, similarly, you have to operationalize the product in such a way that the DevOps will never have to use the product yet. he or she uses your product. So for example, can I embed Accurics into the IDEs of the customer or the developers and start generating context from there. So right from IDE, from your local machine development to your repository development to your master branches to your code repos to pipeline, all these are just the intersections. And that so because so make a product that is easiest for security to operationalize, and I think that's where we found our niche. So messaging uh, we did market to DevOps because we wanted DevOps to be open about taking a product that start to embed into their into their world. It's just not an easy thing. It's very, very difficult. So we always message to DevOps, but we sold to DevOps. Sorry, CISO.
Yeah.
So we go to CISO, market to DevOps. I think this is the new world. The DevOps and devs are the custodian of the objects or the infrastructure or your applications, and they are the ones eventually can operationalize your product. So even if you have a fancy product, but DevOps cannot operationalize, there's no point.
Yeah. No, very good point, Piyush. So next question is from Abhishek. Again, what all did you have to say no to and not yes to everything that came along the way?
A lot of no's, Abhishek. Customer request, founders no. You will always have situations within the team that, hey, no, we need to build this. We just built this one feature and this customer is ours. It happens every day. It happened every day. And sometimes you have to push back that this does not fits into, and we made that mistake. I have personally made that mistake that let's just build this one, let's support this one infrastructure as code technology, and somehow this customer will become ours. It never happens because it's the technology tech stack is always transient, right? They're always moving. So you should look at the larger scheme in mind, and start to say no also sometime. Your investors, you should be able to say no to your investors also. If your investors are not uh, even the investors, you need to work with in the venture, the VC team who aligns with the vision, who can help you building that company. Why are you taking money? It's not because you need money. You are taking money so that you can bring two other eyes and hands on the table, and that those hands will actually help you build the company. So I've seen this often. I talk to a lot of founders even today, and they're not getting any help from their board. They're not getting help from their investors. What's the point of all this? The point is that they are not the right person to work with you. And maybe they don't understand your work. Maybe they do not have, maybe they invested in you in the frenzy of getting into a market, which is okay. But those are the things that you may want to say no. And last is your employees also. Sometimes you have to say no to your team. They tend to over engineer, they tends to build stuff. So sometimes, like I was saying other day, right, that the speed is underestimated. Sometimes we end up building something that nobody's using versus I build something that people wants to use, but I'm not ready. So I want to be in the later stage where I have somebody, I trying to build somebody that everybody wants to use, but I'm not ready. People will give you time and opportunity. So these are, there are tons of no's that we have, I at least personally learned of, throughout this journey, but we all made the same mistakes, and I'm sure everybody is making the same.
So Piyush, it's already 7. Do you have 10 minutes more to cover some more questions? Okay, great. So the next question is from Nilay Saraf. How did you get the basic idea for your startup? I know you kind of have alluded to things, but if you want to answer it again, and how did you deal with your failures?
So one sentence answer on that one. So when I was working in Symantec, working on EDR at a very, very large scale infrastructure, cloud infrastructure, we were processing about almost 2 billion events a day on that platform. It's a full event based architecture. Then over a period of time, I realized that this is getting very, very expensive to manage. I cannot hire the team as much as I want. what is the end to it? There is no end to it. You have to automate everything. And if the automation is driving the entire infrastructure, then why everybody is waiting for infrastructure to be created? I think that's where we started. We actually started the idea a little differently, but we end up realizing that infrastructure automation is probably going to be one of the biggest market in next 2 years. So that's how we get the basic idea that there is a bomb to be explored, about to explode in infrastructure automation.
So this next question from Chandran, my colleague. How do you or board decide to exit in say 19 months since you got the Series A? As it's because of you achieve the business goal to move on or find the right partner to join, or something else you don't want to share, which I'm adding. Anyway, I'll just do.
No, and there's always some things that people will not know, and I don't hide stuff, and I'm not gonna hide. So what happened was we were on a very great start. We were adding few customers every month. The GTM was really going well. But there was a time when we had to redo all of our teams. In fact, the GTM team, I'm talking about the sales and marketing. At that time, we realized that the market has changed much faster than we actually imagined and anticipated. Second, there are very large players. The consolidation has begun in cloud security, especially the cloud infrastructure as code security market space. So, and especially when you go from Series A to Series B, you are going to deal with revenue as a target, ARR as a target, and it is not a game of innovation anymore. So those are the, I think my sense was innovation will put you as a leader, but in order to become successful or get to the next milestone of the company, which is 25 million, 50 million revenue, is you will require to build certain capabilities which are not innovation or could be table stakes. So at this time, either you decide that, hey, leaving apart, I'm just going to build a unicorn, and you can. It's just that I personally felt that a cloud security is going to a significant consolidation. I'd rather take the offer and make that company successful. When Tenable reached out to us, it was first time for Tenable to foray into cloud native security. They had no presence whatsoever. They were container sec and on the vulnerability management, but nothing in cloud. So it was a perfect home for us because absolutely complementary. They are the ones who can fill our gaps also for our next stage of milestone. That's how we decide. But yeah, I mean, I think board was very open, and I had Series B term sheet with me. We mulled over on that decision for a long time, but at the end we decided that why not we take this offer and in this consolidating market go and make a bigger company more successful.
That's great. Thank you, Piyush, for sharing that. And so next question from George Abraham. So you're now part of Tenable. Did the relationship start from your time at Symantec, or RipTech, founded by Amit, was acquired by Symantec? Then he went through many acquisitions, became Tenable. Most relationships grow over time. I'm just curious if the beginnings of this journey started at Symantec.
The honest answer is yes. And the honest answer is yes. And see, sometime it is not just about the product or the space that you are in. It's also about relationship and the people who can understand what you're trying to build. It is very important. Personally, I've seen that there are really tricky situation happens when people don't understand what you're trying to build and what the value you have. So we were lucky to have those kind of relationship in Tenable, outside Tenable, who knew that what we're building on and we were believing in us. So relationships are very important for a founder. Do not underestimate it. I think I should have had a sixth lesson from that slide also. Yes, thank you, George, Abraham, and I think you're 100% right on that one.
Okay, so next question is from Prakash Narayan. Given that you're funded by Clear Sky, would an exit to FireEye? Obviously, I don't see the correlation because I'm not sure if Fire was funded by Clear Sky, Prakash. But anyway, I'll let Piyush answer and be more logical. How did the exit to Tenable play out? I think it played out very good. He's smiling.
So yeah, absolutely. It played out really well. A great company, very ambitious, very solid foundation in terms of vulnerabilities. Nobody is better than them, than leader there. Clear Sky has been an amazing partner. Patrick Heim and Jay League, they both have been phenomenally supportive in anything that I wanted to do. I think for investors, they want to go with the founder's preference, because founder is what he's put his heart and soul, and he's the one, or they are the one who are going to take the company to next level once they acquired. So I don't think investors would ever push you or would try to push you in one company or one place where you are not aligned completely. So at least I have not seen personally, because my board was very supportive, Clear Sky was very supportive, and they had no concern whatsoever.
Thank you, Piyush. So the second last question, Abhishek asked again. So I think, how did you zero in on the idea? What is the process for idea selection? You recommend beyond the disrupt, be first, what next?
Abhishek, you know what? I learned it after I incepted the idea. There are two things that are more important for any idea. The first is, are you solving a problem that is common? Second, are you solving a problem that what is the intersection of that problem? So the instrumentation of the solution, how easy or hard it is going to be, is going to decide the idea also. No matter you are trying to build a rocket to moon, if you cannot instrument that solution in a customer environment, it's pointless. So common and important, these are the two things, is very, very important. You need to solve a problem that exists with most players, more customers, most buyer, and that problem has to be important also. So use these two parameters, in my opinion, you will get the answer. And then you can do disruption within that, and so on and so forth. Common and important.
Thank you, Piyush. So last question, actually, is one of the other person. Looks like I keep getting questions. We'll have one more question, then we will end to let Piyush go and work. You know, he works very hard, 24 hours almost, as far as I know. So, but the question is similar to what Ashish is also asking, what I ask usually. So maybe we'll make it the last
Sure.
one. So the question is, I always ask what is, let's say if you were to start a new company today so there are actually two questions. Let me ask you, because cybersecurity, obviously I'm in the same space. So one is, there are so many startups, like you kind of answered that there's a consolidation that's happening. That's why you guys, even though you're doing very well, decided to not take the Series B round and decided to become part of Tenable and build a company over there. And since, I just say sequel to that is, because since you'll be tied up there for a few years, let's say if you had to start a company today, and if there are some entrepreneurs in the audience who want to start a new company in the cybersecurity space, what is that you think they should do, or what idea they should jump on right now?
So I'm actually, I might be crossing my little boundary here in terms of if I have the opportunity, I would say, okay, let me put it this way, very simplistically. You're in, especially in the cloud security world, the threat surface has changed very fundamentally. We always measured how to secure based on the threat surface that you have to secure, right? Your threat surface has changed. Your definition of 0 days, your definition of threats have also changed. And last is more important is, then in this new world, everything is ephemeral, which means that nothing is persisting. Everything is changing all the time. So, but who is the custodian of that? Who is governing that part? The governance is happening in the code. So in my viewpoint, anything, the way the infrastructure code has moved your cloud from from your runtime to the code, in the same fashion, your threats have also started moving to the left. So you would not find a lot of breaches that are happening just because you have a security group misconfiguration happening, or a or a security, or your storage bucket is empty, or you're open to world. Your threats will not enter from those periphery. They will move to the left, and they are moving to the left. SolarWind attacks you talks about, I spend so much time on that. I personally feel that the complexity on the dev, complexity in the repos, complexity in the dev process is going to have the big disruption after this. So supply chain is one use case or one type of threats that would enter, but to me, the threats are moving to the left. The next buyer, the next big buyer of cybersecurity is going to be developers and DevOps.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. So if I have to start next one,
Sorry.
If I have to start the next one, I'll build something that my developers can take. So dev is the new CISO.
All right. Thank you so much. And any other words of wisdom for aspiring entrepreneurs, other than the already have defined the problem statement for them to go get funding now? So any trends, other trends and opportunities do you see over next 3 to 5 years?
3 to 5 years. I think this growth in cybersecurity, this growth in cloud, is not going to stop.
Yes.
I think it has accelerated in the last 1.5 years, and there are tons of opportunities. There are tons of opportunities. The market that we always thought that gonna stagnate, they gonna open up again.
Right.
So, if it's just last statement. So my friend, I used to have a childhood friend. This guy did his MBA from a very prestigious college. He joined a FMCG company. He was designing product for toothbrush and toothpaste. So I asked him, said that, hey, how do you guys keep creating new products and how do you sell it? He said, every human, there are 5 billion people on this planet. There are 5 billion toothpaste and toothbrush needs to exist. So, and nobody's going to stick to one. So there are plenty of buyer. There are plenty of such. The market is so large. There are a lot of white spaces. So don't worry about building something a rocket ship from day one. You will evolve, and that's how it happened with me. When I started, I did not know that this is going to be so big. So just get in there, just get started, and you will build something that is very meaningful. I guarantee you this.
That's very good. With that word of wisdom, so Piyush, thank you again for sharing your amazing story and for being with us here. So we will.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much again. Let's give him a big round of virtual applause. Thank you. And we'll have our next My Story session in January. We'll be announcing in a few days another great entrepreneur. And again, you have a wonderful evening, and to everyone, all the attendees. Bye-bye.
Thank you.